Aloha. I wanted to do a follow-up video to the last video I just did because I did that video and I forgot that I had written down kind of like a schematic of what I wanted that video to be about, or so what I thought I wanted the video to be about. But come to find out, like I really needed to do this video separately anyway because I wanted to add it in to this video that I just did. But it was specifically gravity. Obviously, it's gonna be in the title, but I had the thought of like the whole talk with gravity and finding gravitational waves and all that stuff recently that's been going on. And this is this $50 Hubble book I got as a birthday present. But yeah, I was can't even really see right now. Yeah, so I was looking or just thinking about like okay, so this is kind of like the makeup of what kind of structure it is to control people or create a system of control. But the actual God itself that they are secretly like worshiping is this idea. So like I was referencing in a previous video where they were talking about discovering the gravitational waves, about how they worship like Albert Einstein and all these great scientists and physicists and astrologers and all this stuff that they've been studying for so long. Copernicus and Isaac Newton and Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson nowadays. Like what holds everything together, no pun intended, is gravity. And like a lot of people were talking about the curvature of the earth, but like if you really I was really thinking about it. I was like, well, we talk about synchronicities on people who come from like a spiritual kind of perspective and a synchronistic like awareness and just like, oh my goodness, this book really just grinds my gears. Like that whole, yeah, there it is, the actual system itself. Astronauts train and produce their movies underwater. Astronauts create these systems in Hollywood. Anyway, so gravity. Back to gravity. Gravity is basically the mainstream God. It's what holds everything together. When they make this book, when they're talking about all these stars, when they're showing all these pictures, they're looking at planets that are being held together not by spirit, not by a creator, not by a divine source of energy. They say gravity made this. Gravity makes the orbit. Gravity makes a planet. Gravity makes you connect to your planet. Gravity makes like all these things happen. It's science itself. So since they discovered gravity, they discovered God, and the so-called they. And if you believe in gravity, then you're inherently believing that you can't fly. Just in one like dream space of observation that I was thinking of in interpreting my dreams a lot. But going back to the point, it's basically like spirit and your soul groups, like people say, like soul family, like we meet up and we see each other again and that whole thing. It's we're talking about a something that can't really be explained. An energy, a force, a creative, infinite space that exists throughout all. That makes a flower smell the way it does. That makes like a rose smell the way it does, and that makes the spiral format of these beautiful creations that we see around us, to the complexities of like our genetic coding and the various numbers of like the millions and millions of species on the planet, and the instantaneous thoughts and creative fields that we, just from our perspectives, can observe and come up with. They could spend, what would happen if $19 billion went into understanding the depths of the human spirit? Like, what would happen there? Instead of putting it in NASA, who was looking out into the stars and looking for something completely unknown, because they have separated, the so-called they have already separated themselves from that spirit, that soul connection. So they have to create a facade or an idea to let other people believe in it, but still sell in the underhand belief system of, or artificial belief system of a God. But the so-called they themselves, don't believe in that energy, because they know from colonizing all of the indigenous groups on the planet, they know what that spirit is. They know what that existence is. So in order to hide that, this book, this system, gravity, dinosaurs, evolution, eugenics, science, everything in this system had to be created in order to distract people from what the indigenous cultures and peoples of this planet, who are empowered by an infinite space beyond science and limitationville and all that stuff. So they kind of huddled around the theory of gravity, because it's tangible for us, because we can fall off a chair, or trip and drop something, and like, oh yeah, this is it, which is really literally their only proof. When if you just make it down to basic sciences, then you would understand that a feather, the density of a feather, seemingly just like counteracts gravity, but it's density itself. It's not, you don't have to label it something else in order to understand it. Like they only had to label it as something that, like gravity, in order to make artificial calculations that they could put in books to make people pay to go to school and believe in those books, and back up the scent, that ridiculous garbage of scent of gravity and the whole university system process. So they had to build your university itself. This is what this is. It's building the university, your universe, and making you believe that this is the way your creation is, or your existence is. And then since they discovered it, and they know about gravity, and they have calculations for how the planets that circuit that are out there that you can see at night, and the stars that are out there that you see at night. They can create your God for you, and you'll think you're part of a crew. You're part of something beautiful, something true. But these are only half truths, and mostly just not true at all. Just like artificial ingredients. These genetically modified connections to spirit, genetically modified connections to your soul group and your true essence. So gravity is literally what keeps you from flying, the essence of flying, your soul flying, and also your reality of flying free from these chains and these shackles. So the true energy that brings things together, that makes people closer to a planet, is not gravity. It's a spirit. It's the heartbeat. But when that energy is channeled into an idea, a scientific idea that we call gravity, then you can, and they have calculations for gravity, then you can have people worship that idea, and those people who are really controlling you with beautiful pictures and drawings of stars and space and galaxies and nebulas and supernovas and black hole sounds and outer space pictures and towers of there's the Eagle nebulas and all this stuff that is just meant for you to be distracted and to pay into an idea in order to separate. So before science, before NASA, before these artificial ideas of satellites and all this stuff, like, they're creating an entire system. And when we buy into it, we're not only buying into these ideas, we inherently separate ourselves from other ideas and other connections, just by simply believing it. And it affects the way we create our reality, like how we consciously engage in creating our reality, our timelines and everything. So it doesn't really, like people talk a lot about CERN and Illuminati stuff and all this stuff, but really when you go down to the nuts and bolts, like the essence of our connections to ourselves and each other and the planet have been completely uprooted, ripped apart, and destroyed on so many levels. And before it goes to the physical space, it starts in our soul connections, and we haven't even understood what that actually means yet. So and what that means and what our surroundings have been told, what we've been told to believe, and what that stuff means. So if we disassemble what we've been told to believe, then we'll be able to understand at least the introduction of what is essentially true in our nature and our existence, and stop believing artificial systems that hold up the foundations of controllers and mediocre magicians. So start questioning the most things that we like. It's absurd for people to even question gravity, but when you really think about it, it's a theory, it's a thought. And what does that thought really mean? It holds together these planets. It makes galaxies come together. Like when they tell you that this one thing, like Gravity, out of all things, that means that there's no intelligence there. There's no creative soul, spirit, essence in the way galaxies come together or planets come together. It's all because of gravity. I'm not buying it. So you can keep that keep that nonsense for something else. I'm gonna figure out what's really going on here, at least from my own perspective. Once we let go of these pretty pictures of artificial reality and start understanding what this stuff really means and how it exists in our fields, in our hearts. So that's the end of the book. Look at that. Who took this picture? That's the thing. This is the thing. Like, what took this picture? And like, they have all these pictures of like satellites on other like Mars. They have a picture of a satellite in front of Mars. Like, what took that picture? See, this is all fairy tales. Silliness. These are some silly folks. Oh, man. I'll leave it there. Thanks for joining me. Until next time. Peace, love, and harmony.